Shuddha knelt before the Buddha, his forehead creased with worry, his eyes full of confusion. Slowly he bowed and spoke with a heavy heart. Blessed One, there is a question that has troubled me for a long time. Over the years, I have witnessed many kind-hearted people who dedicate their lives to doing good and helping others. Yet they often face constant hardships and sometimes pass away at a young age. Meanwhile, those who are wealthy but cruel, oppressing the poor, seem to live long and prosper. Why is this so? Does true justice in cause and effect not exist in our world? Inside the bamboo grove, monks and lay followers exchanged looks. It was clear this question weighed on many minds. People whispered among themselves. Some nodded, agreeing with Shuddha's concerns, while others appeared lost in thought. Shuddha bowed deeply once more, his voice trembling slightly. Yet, Blessed One, I have always believed in the law of karma, that good deeds bring good results, and harmful deeds bring harm in return. But what I see in reality leaves me bewildered. I do not dare to question universal truth, but if cause and effect work in such a way, how can anyone maintain faith? If doing good does not guarantee blessings, and doing harm does not necessarily bring punishment, then what is the point of choosing good over bad? The Buddha looked at Shuddha with compassion, his expression calm and kind. He nodded gently and spoke in a voice both warm and profound. Excellent question. Yours is the confusion that troubles many. The outcome of good and bad deeds is not always as simple as people imagine. There is a deeper principle at work. Today I will share a story that may help dissolve your doubts. The Buddha raised his hand softly, his gaze sweeping over the listeners, and began. In the kingdom of Savatthi lived two wealthy merchants, one named Garo and another named Shai. Both were born into prosperous families but chose completely different life paths. From a young age, Garo was kind-hearted and generous. When he inherited his family's business, he did not indulge in luxury. Instead, with a compassionate heart, he viewed his wealth as a resource to help others. He established a charitable center outside the city, offering free meals and caring for poor families. On special days, he provided food to monks and invited elders without relatives, giving them a place to stay and enough to eat. Anyone displaced or in need could find refuge there. Whoever sought his help was never turned away. Not only did he give material assistance, but he also showed genuine concern for people suffering. Whenever he encountered someone sick or in dire need, he tried his best to help. One day, an elderly man appeared at the charitable center, dressed in tattered clothes and walking with a cane. Garo himself greeted him, kindly asking about his situation. The man introduced himself as a wanderer who needed a place to stay for a few days. Without hesitation, Garo arranged a room for him, provided warm food, and gave him clean clothes. Unexpectedly, this old man turned out to be a skilled healer in disguise. Seeing how many impoverished people were suffering from illness due to lack of proper clothing and medicine, he offered to stay and treat the sick. Delighted, Garo immediately funded the construction of a small clinic and purchased medical supplies. From then on, the charitable center not only provided free meals, but also became a place of healing for the poor. The old man's medical skill saved many lives, and Garo, always by his side, gradually learned the principles of healing. Not only did he spend his own money on medicine, but he also persuaded other wealthy individuals to donate, sometimes spending nearly all his fortune so that more people could be treated. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Shai lived a completely different life. He was born stingy, obsessed with profit, and made his fortune by lending money at exorbitant interest rates, specifically targeting those in desperate need. If someone failed to repay a debt on time, his agents would use threats and force, seizing their land and homes, sometimes even reducing debtors to servitude. Countless families were ruined by his lending practices. He grew richer while the poor grew poorer. His estate became increasingly lavish, decorated with gold and intricate carvings, but his heart grew colder, concerned only with money rather than the suffering of others. One year, Shai's young son fell gravely ill, and every renowned doctor he consulted admitted defeat. Word spread of a remarkable healer at Garo's center. Although Shai was arrogant by nature, he eventually swallowed his pride and brought lavish gifts to request treatment. The old man carefully diagnosed the boy and explained that the only cure required a rare medicinal herb, which Shai immediately purchased at great cost. After the old man prepared the remedy, Shai's son recovered. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Shai offered a tremendous sum of money in return. But the old man only smiled and said, "Healing is the duty of a physician. True merit is found in using wealth to help others." Shai kept his thoughts to himself, but quietly remembered those words. He had always believed that money could buy anything. Yet here was someone who did good purely out of compassion, never greedy for wealth. Although Shai remained committed to his ruthless business methods, his view of Garo and the charitable center began to change. Time passed. A sudden plague fell upon Savati. The disease spread quickly, throwing the people into panic. Many fell ill without medicine or care, collapsing in the streets. Fearlessly, Garo and the old man tended to the infected day and night, converting Garo's estate into a makeshift hospital to house the severely ill. As the number of patients rose, Garo hardly slept. He personally prepared herbal remedies, fed the patients, and offered comfort. But due to his constant exposure to the disease and exhaustion, Garo eventually caught the infection himself. His fever raged and he grew weaker with each passing day. Despite the old man's best efforts, nothing could save him. In his final moments, Garo held the healer's hand and whispered with a faint smile, "I leave this life without regret. Helping others has been my greatest blessing." With those words, he passed away at the age of 35. Garo's death shocked the entire kingdom. Tens of thousands came to pay their respects, their voices rising in sorrow for the compassionate benefactor. In gratitude for his many good deeds, the people erected a monument in his honor, calling him the great philanthropist. Even Shai, usually so unfeeling, sent an expensive burial garment. In stark contrast, when the plague broke out, Shai fled with his family to a remote estate. He posted guards at the gate and left notices warning that anyone carrying the disease would be beaten if they tried to enter. He sealed himself inside, indifferent to what might happen to those left behind. Only after the plague subsided did he return to the city. Strangely enough, he avoided the disease entirely. In fact, his business thrived during his time in hiding, and his wealth continued to grow. Eventually, he lived to the ripe old age of 90, enjoying power and luxury, with a large and prosperous family. His funeral was conducted with all the grandeur befitting a rich man's life. The Buddha paused, gazing kindly at Shuddhata. Then he asked softly, "Shuddhata, have you considered why the destinies of Garo and Shai turned out so differently?" Shuddhata, even more troubled, furrowed his brow, his voice anxious. "Blessed One, your story shows us Garo's goodness and compassion and Shai's cruelty and selfishness. But that's exactly what confuses me. Garo used his entire fortune to help others, never fearing hardship, yet he died so young. Meanwhile, Shai, who was ruthless and greedy, lived unscathed and reached old age with abundant wealth and descendants. Why? I grew up believing in karma, that those who do good will receive good, and those who do bad will receive bad. But now I see something else entirely. If Garo was so virtuous, he should have lived a long life, reaping blessings in the world. And Shai, who exploited others, should have faced severe consequences. Instead, Garo passed away at 35, while Shai outlived almost everyone, enjoying power and fortune. How can this be? He looked around and saw that many of those gathered shared his perplexed expression. Taking a deep breath, he continued, voice trembling with emotion. "Blessed One, if karma is real, why don't we see it operate as we expect? Why do we witness bad people thriving and good people suffering? And if doing good doesn't always bring reward while doing harm can go unpunished, why should anyone bother being good? I've seen many kind souls devote themselves to charity, only to end up poor or become victims themselves. Meanwhile, the cruel and the greedy often hold power and wealth. Won't people seeing this question the reality of karmic justice? Some might lose faith, thinking good and evil have no true outcome, and thus abandon moral conduct or even aid the wicked." Silence fell over the bamboo grove. Everyone waited, breath held, for the Buddha's reply. It was clear this was not only Shuddhata's question, it echoed in the hearts of all who were present, each of them eager for an answer to this age-old mystery. The Buddha quietly regarded Shuddhata, his gaze deep and compassionate. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes for a moment, as if lost in thought. or perhaps giving everyone time to let their minds settle. After a pause, he spoke in a calm but resonant voice. Shuddhata, what you have observed reflects a common doubt about cause and effect. Karmic results cannot be judged solely by what occurs in one lifetime. If we look only at this present life and form conclusions, we misunderstand how karma truly operates. He opened his eyes, his gentle gaze falling upon the gathered community. Today I will reveal a deeper truth about karma, so you may see that what appears unfair is actually governed by a precise order. Still speaking gently, the Buddha continued, Shuddhata, people are confused by karma because they see only the immediate result and fail to look into the deeper cause. Karma extends across time, linking past lives, this life, and future lives. Anyone who judges good or bad fortune based solely on the successes or failures of today is like a blind person examining only a small part of an elephant, never seeing the whole. Shuddhata leaned forward, still puzzled, and asked in a soft voice, Blessed One, what does it mean to say that karma spans across lifetimes? The Buddha smiled gently and began to explain. Karma works in three stages. The deeds of a past life produce the results of the present, and actions in the present will determine future outcomes. Good or bad results do not always appear right away, because many conditions can affect how and when they ripen. Garo and Shai are perfect examples of this. In this lifetime, Garo performed countless good deeds, giving generously, helping the sick, and feeling genuine empathy for others. Based on his actions now, he should indeed have enjoyed a long, blessed life. Why then did he pass away so young? It's because he still carried unresolved negative karma from a past life. Karma doesn't simply vanish. It's like planting a seed. Some seeds sprout quickly, while others lie dormant for years. His past life still bore serious wrongdoing that had not yet come to fruition. In a previous lifetime, Garo was once a corrupt merchant who cheated people and sold them adulterated grain during a famine, causing countless deaths. Although he became extremely wealthy back then, he planted the seeds of great harm. Even though in this life he awakened compassion and did enormous good, the negative karma from that earlier life had matured, and that is why he died so young. But rest assured, his benevolence in this life will not go to waste. It will blossom in his next life, where he will be reborn into more fortunate circumstances. As for Shai, in a past life, he was a devout practitioner who fasted, observed moral precepts, and prayed for the welfare of all. He gathered abundant positive karma, which he now enjoys in the form of wealth and a long life. Yet in this life, he has committed many harmful acts, thereby planting the seeds of suffering. Although his old merits have not yet run out, once they are exhausted, the consequences of his current misconduct will catch up with him. In a future life, he will face those results, which could be very harsh indeed. Karma is like a great wheel that turns without rest or error. The blessings you see in someone's present life could be the fruit of previous good deeds. Meanwhile, the harm being done today will produce future suffering. The universe is not unjust. It simply requires more time to reveal the truth. Focusing only on what's happening now is like watching a single shooting star and believing that's the only light in the sky. We must remember there are countless stars, each following its own orbit. Shuddhata's eyes grew bright with understanding. He bowed his head and murmured, So karma does not belong to just one lifetime, but spans all lifetimes. What we witness now is the result of what was planted in the past, and our actions today will shape what is to come. The Buddha nodded gently, speaking with warmth but clarity. Exactly so. Therefore, we should not become resentful when we see a harmful person enjoy riches, nor should we lose heart when we see a kind person suffer. If the results of deeds have not yet ripened, they remain hidden, but eventually they will appear without fail. You must not grow discouraged just because good deeds do not bring immediate reward, nor should anyone feel safe merely because bad actions go unpunished for the moment. The wise understand that karma may take time, but it never fails. Let each person remain vigilant, acting with virtue, showing kindness, and refraining from harm. Whether or not your goodness is recognized right away, you are sowing the seeds of future well-being. Those who act cruelly may believe they have escaped justice, But in truth, they are planting seeds of pain that will sprout later. Shuddhata, filled with relief, bowed deeply. His voice trembled with reverence. Blessed One, I see now. Karma never errs. It simply does not always manifest at once. Whatever good or bad fortune we have in this life was formed by our own past deeds, and our present conduct will shape what is still to come. Thus, everything we go through is a reflection of our own actions, and our future is in our hands. The Buddha smiled regarding Shuddhata and all who gathered with benevolence. Indeed, karma and rebirth may be invisible, but they are never mistaken. If people judge everything by just one lifetime, they may wrongly conclude the universe is unfair. But in truth, what we see is just a small piece of a much larger design. Understanding how karma spans past, present, and future, we can see beyond a single moment's gain or loss. The real question is not why a good person appears to suffer or why a bad person seems to prosper, but rather, what seeds did I plant in the past, and what seeds am I planting right now? If you wish to improve your destiny, begin with your own actions. A compassionate deed today will become tomorrow's blessing. A harmful act today will turn into a burden down the road. If someone thinks, I don't see any immediate consequences for my wrongdoing, so I can do as I please, that is like planting a poisonous seed in the dark. Eventually it will grow and consume them. Meanwhile, if a person continues to do good even when they cannot see any reward yet, that is like nurturing a seed in the shadows, a seed that will one day sprout and bear sweet fruits. Shuddhata nodded slowly, determination shining in his eyes. That means our true practice lies in living rightly, without clinging to immediate rewards. We do good simply because it is right, trusting that our actions will ripen in their own time. The Buddha bowed his head slightly, his voice kind yet firm. Exactly. Genuine wisdom is not fixated on one lifetime's fortunes or misfortunes. It goes beyond personal gain and loss, chooses kindness and sincerity, and remains unmoved by temporary ups and downs. In this way, no matter what happens, the heart can stay calm. Good deeds will bear good results in time, according to the conditions that allow them to flourish. He paused, then offered a final benediction. May you all remember that karma never forgets. Rebirth continues onward. Take this teaching to heart, revere the workings of cause and effect, and cultivate goodness. Do not be swayed by fleeting success or failure, but stay on the path of compassion and wisdom. Eventually you will find liberation and go beyond the cycle of suffering. Shuddhata bowed deeply once again, saying with sincerity, Blessed One, your words have opened my eyes. I will remember what I learned today and practice accordingly. I will no longer question why good deeds do not always bring instant rewards or why harmful acts sometimes seem to go unpunished. Instead, I will focus on planting seeds of kindness, expecting nothing in return, hoping that everyone benefits, and that I may also gain a clear conscience. Those gathered also bowed their heads filled with gratitude. Like a gentle rain, the Buddha's words had refreshed their hearts. They understood that karma and rebirth follow a profound order, that every action leaves an imprint. True spiritual growth does not hinge on immediate payback, but on abiding in compassion, doing good wherever possible, and using wisdom to view life's uncertain fortunes. Even as events in this world shift like clouds in the wind, they could now remain as still as a serene lake, untroubled by the waves of circumstance.